Those who read this letter will be the most successful people today. I will be the one to provide you with knowledge, experience, and wealth. Most importantly, from this point forward, I will help you memorize the lessons of success in the shortest time possible. Share me with your friends so that together, we can become elite and build lasting wealth. If you understand this, the rest is simple. Getting rich is not the result of doing certain things, but the result of doing things in a certain way that aligns with the fundamental, mathematical laws of the universe. Wallace D. Wattles. The science of getting rich begins with a radical and unapologetic assertion that the desire for wealth is not a sin, but a noble aspiration for a fuller, richer, and more abundant life. It is the most fundamental right of every human being to have the unrestricted use of all the things which may be necessary to their fullest mental, spiritual, and physical unfoldment. The narrative introduces us to the concept of the formless substance, a primordial, intelligent energy that permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. This is the archetype of the divine architect. Every visible thing on earth is made from this one original substance, which is a thinking stuff, and a thought of form in this substance produces the form. We are not mere observers of a static reality, we are creators who have the inherent power to impress our thoughts upon this formless substance to bring what we desire into tangible existence. The story follows the journey of an individual who realizes that poverty is not a requirement for spirituality or a sign of divine favor. In fact, one can render to God and humanity no greater service than to make the most of themselves, which requires the possession of material resources. The analysis of this stage reveals the first law of the science: thought is the only power which can produce tangible riches from the formless substance. The material world is the result of thoughts held in the mind of nature. Therefore, to get rich, one must first acquire the ability to think in a certain way, to think truth regardless of appearances. To see wealth when surrounded by the visible signs of poverty requires a mastery of the mind that few possess but all can learn. The script emphasizes that the universe wants you to have everything you want because the original substance wants to live more through you. It is an evolutionary, creative force, not a competitive one. The narrative then transitions into the vital distinction between competition and creation. The story illustrates the competitive mind, which views the world as a finite pie where one man's gain must necessarily be another man's loss. This is the archetype of the scarcity trap. But the science of getting rich demands that the seeker rise above this low-level plane of thought. You are to become a creator, not a competitor. You are going to get what you want, but in such a way that when you get it, every other person will have more than they have now. This is the archetype of the abundant provider. The analysis shows that when you move to the creative plane, you tap into the infinite supply of the formless substance, which knows no limits and recognizes no shortages. The lesson learned is that you do not have to drive sharp bargains, cheat your neighbor, or take advantage of others. Instead, you must give every person more in use value than you take from them in cash value. If you sell a man a tool for $1, but that tool helps him earn $1,000, you have added to the life of the world while enriching yourself. As the continuous narrative flows, we explore the immense power of gratitude. The story describes an individual who, though they practice the certain way, fails to see results because they lack a deep, emotional connection with the source of supply. Gratitude is the psychological bridge that connects the human mind to the creative energies of the universe. The more gratefully we fix our minds on the supreme when good things come to us, the more good things we will receive, and the more rapidly they will come. The analysis reveals that gratitude brings the whole mind into closer harmony with the creative impulses of the cosmos. It prevents the seeker from falling back into the competitive mind. The script intensifies the emotional necessity of this state. You cannot maintain great power without gratitude, because it is the only thing that keeps you looking toward the infinite and prevents you from seeing the supply as limited or governed by the whims of men. The immersion continues as the story explores the specific image. You cannot impress a thought upon the formless substance if you do not have a clear and definite mental picture of what you want. The narrative follows a character who vaguely wants to be rich but sees no change in their life. Richness is a vague abstraction. The certain way requires a blueprint. You must see the house you want to live in, the clothes you want to wear, the business you want to own. The analysis here focuses on the willpower of the vision. You do not use your will to coerce others or to force the universe to act, you use your will solely to keep your mind focused on the image of your desire. The lesson is that doubt or fear acts as a counter-current that repels the very things you are trying to attract. To grow rich, you must hold your vision with unwavering faith and purpose, treating the mental image as an accomplished fact that is currently in the process of being materialized. The narrative momentum builds as it tackles the efficiency of action. While thought brings the thing to you, action is the means by which you receive it. The story depicts the dreamer who sits in meditation but fails to move their hands. This is a violation of the law. You must act now. There is never any time but now. And there will never be any time but now. You cannot act in the past. And you cannot act in the future. The analysis shows that you must perform every act of the day with success consciousness. It is not the number of things you do, but the efficiency of each separate act that counts. Every inefficient act is a failure. And if you spend your life doing inefficient acts, your whole life will be a failure. But if every act is efficient, you must necessarily succeed. The certain way requires you to do all that can be done that day, and to do each act in an efficient manner, putting the power of your vision behind every movement, moving deeper into the psychological train. The narrative touches upon the impression of increase. This is the fundamental urge of nature, the desire for more life. The story follows a character who interacts with everyone they meet, from the clerk to the client, as a medium through which the thought of increase is conveyed. You must radiate the feeling that you are a getting rich person and that you are an advancing person. The analysis suggests that people are attracted to those who give off the vibration of progress. The lesson here is that by giving the impression of increase in everything you do, you become a magnet for opportunity. This is not about bragging or vanity, it is about a quiet, settled conviction that you are on the path of growth. When others feel that they will get increase by associating with you, they will be drawn to you, and the universe will open doors that were previously locked. The story then addresses the advancing man in their current vocation. The narrative follows a character who feels trapped in a job they hate. The certain way does not tell you to quit your job immediately and leap into the unknown without a plan. Instead, it tells you to be too big for your current place. By filling your present position to overflowing, by doing your work better than it has ever been done before, you create a vacuum that the universe must fill with a larger opportunity. This is the archetype of the expanding self. The analysis reveals that you do not get a better job by running away from the old one, you get it by outgrowing it. The power of the formless substance works through your present environment to create the next step in your evolution. You act where you are, with the tools you have, while keeping your eye fixed on the vision of where you are going. The intensity of the narrative builds as we reach the core of the science of receiving. The story describes the process of transfer. While you are creating wealth through thought, the actual money will come to you through the existing channels of trade and commerce. You must be ready to give your best effort in the physical world to match the creative work you have done in the mental world. This is the archetype of the alchemist of trade. The analysis emphasizes that you cannot get something for nothing. You must give every person more in use value than you take in cash value. This creates a surplus of life force that the universe uses to fuel your expansion. The script challenges the listener to view their daily work not as a struggle for survival, but as a sacred ritual of exchange that benefits the whole of humanity. Finally, the narrative introduces the concept of opportunity. The story follows a character who stops complaining about bad luck or the system and starts looking for the open way. The certain way teaches that opportunity is never truly closed, it only shifts its form. As the world evolves, new needs are created, and the formless substance is always moving toward the fulfillment of these needs. The analysis shows that you do not need to wait for a lucky break. By thinking and acting in the certain way, you create your own luck. The lesson is that the universe is always on your side, and that the science of getting rich is simply the art of aligning your individual will with the universal will for more life and more abundance. The narrative continues into the deep psychological discipline of the use of the will. If you understand this, the rest is simple. You must never attempt to exert your willpower upon anything or anyone outside of yourself. The story portrays the archetype of the spiritual tyrant. An individual who believes they can force the universe to do their bidding through mental coercion or by manipulating others. But the certain way teaches that the mind is a lens, not a lever. You use your willpower only to keep your mind focused on the vision of wealth and to maintain the state of faith and purpose. The analysis of this stage reveals that the moment you try to use your will on others, you fall back into the competitive plane. You become a predator rather than a creator. To get rich, you do not need to command the formless substance, you only need to command your own attention. The immersion flows into the law of mental hygiene. The narrative follows a character who is constantly distracted by the appearances of poverty. They read about the suffering of the masses, they dwell on the failures of the past, and they listen to the cynical predictions of the doommongers. The science of getting rich demands a ruthless psychological quarantine. You must close your mind to everything that suggests poverty. This is not out of heartlessness, but out of the realization that you cannot help the poor by being poor yourself, or by dwelling on the idea of poverty. The analysis suggests that the best way to help the world is to become the most successful version of yourself. By demonstrating the certain way, you become a living example of what is possible. The script emphasizes that you must fill your mind with the images of wealth, health, and advancement until there is no room for their opposites. The story then addresses the power of present action. The narrative describes the perpetual student, someone who has read the book 100 times and can recite every law. Yet their life remains stagnant because they are waiting for a future moment to act. They are waiting for the economy to change, for a new president to be elected, or for a sign from heaven. The certain way is the science of the now. You must act where you are, with what you have, and you must do it perfectly. The analysis here focuses on the efficiency of the individual act. Success is a cumulative result of efficient acts. If you perform 100 acts today and 80 are efficient, you are moving toward your goal. If only 20 are efficient, you are moving away. The lesson is that the universe cannot give you a larger place until you first fill your present place to overflowing. As the continuous narrative flows, the script explores the concept of the advancing life. The story follows an individual who understands that the universe is an expansive force. Everything in nature is trying to become more than it is. The seed wants to be a tree. The child wants to be an adult. And the formless substance wants to express more life through you. This is the impression of increase. In every interaction, whether you are buying a newspaper or closing a multi-million-dollar deal, you must convey the feeling that you are an advancing man and that you are a source of increase for others. The analysis reveals that people are naturally drawn to those who vibrate with progress. By becoming a center of increase, you align yourself with the strongest current in the cosmos, ensuring that every door opens to you and every person you meet becomes a potential ally in your journey. The narrative momentum builds as we reach the myth of special talent. The story depicts a character who believes they cannot be rich because they lack a specific genius or a rare skill. But the science of getting rich asserts that getting rich is a result of a certain way of thinking and acting, not a result of inherent brilliance. You can see people of immense talent who remain poor, and people of mediocre talent who become fabulously wealthy. The analysis shows that if you have the will to wealth, the necessary talents will be developed as you move forward. You do not need to have the skills today to do what you will be doing in 5 years. You only need the skill to do what you must do today. The formless substance will bring to you the knowledge, the people, and the tools you need exactly when you are ready to use them. Moving deeper into the psychological train, the narrative touches upon the law of non-resistance. The story follows the fighter, a man who spends his energy battling the system, fighting his competitors, and struggling against the current of life. He is exhausted and bitter. The certain way teaches that you do not need to fight. You only need to create. If you find yourself in a competitive environment, you move your mind to the creative plane. If you find yourself in a bad job, you perform your duties with such excellence and vision that you outgrow it. The analysis reveals that the universe offers no resistance to the man who is moving in harmony with its laws. The lesson is that struggle is a sign that you have lost your way. True power is found in the quiet. settled conviction that your vision is already a reality in the mental world and is rapidly coming into focus in the physical world. The intensity of the narrative builds as we reach the core of the wealth of the soul. The story describes the protagonist's realization that the science of getting rich is the highest form of self-development. It requires more mental discipline, more faith, and more integrity than any other path. You must become a person of your word. You must become a person who can see through the illusions of the senses. The analysis here is a call to total integrity. To grow rich, you must be honest with yourself and with others, because the creative power only works for those who are in harmony with the truth. The script emphasizes that the wealth you gain is the measure of the man you have become. The material riches are the external validation of your internal victory over fear, doubt, and the competitive ego. The final movement of Wattle's scientific protocol leads us into the archetype of the advancing life, where the seeker finally transcends the limitations of the physical world to become a co-creator with the infinite. If you understand this, the rest is simple. The universe is an ever-expanding organism of growth. And to align yourself with the science of getting rich is to become the very channel through which the universe expresses its desire for more life. The story follows the character as they reach the pinnacle of the certain way, realizing that their wealth is not a static destination, but a dynamic, flowing force. They no longer look at their bank account as a measure of what they have taken from the world, but as a measure of the increase they have provided to it. This is the alchemical union of purpose and action. The analysis of this final stage reveals the supreme secret of the advancing man. It is the realization that opportunity is not a door that is sometimes open and sometimes closed. Opportunity is a state of being. The narrative portrays the individual as someone who has become too large for their current environment, a spiritual giant inhabiting a physical world that must now rearrange itself to accommodate their expanded vision. You do not wait for the right opportunity to arrive, you act in a certain way until your very presence creates the opportunity. The script emphasizes that the formless substance is always under the pressure of the desire for more life. When you provide the image and the action, the universe has no choice but to provide the result. This is not a matter of hope or luck, it is a matter of universal law. The core message Wallace D. Wattles intends to convey is that poverty is an error of the mind, and riches are the natural result of mental and physical harmony with the source. The book is a manifesto for the sovereignty of the creative thought. It asserts that you are not a victim of heredity, environment, or the economy, but the master of your own supply. By refusing to compete and choosing to create, by maintaining a clear vision and an unwavering gratitude, and by performing every present act with the power of success consciousness, you don't just earn money, you command the forces of nature to bring it to you. The science of getting rich is the art of becoming the person who is worthy of the universe's infinite bounty. In the final reckoning, the story of the certain way is the story of your own awakening. You are the thinking stuff that has become conscious of its own power. The narrative concludes with the seeker standing at the threshold of a life without lack, where every dream is a blueprint and every action is a victory. The science has been proven, the way has been paved. You are free, not because you have escaped the world, but because you have learned how to master it from within. The gold in your hand is the physical evidence of the God power in your soul. There is no limit to the riches you can possess, provided you never lose the vision of increase and the heart of gratitude.